All right, guys, I am so stoked because this car is just sick. So, Philip, why are we here and what do we got?
All right, so we are here at Champion Porsche. We have the all-new, all-electric Porsche Taycan Turbo S, one of the first iterations actually here in the US. And I'm really happy that we were actually finally able to spend some time.
I've been wanting to come down here forever. There are so many cool cars here. We're gonna come down all the time now. So.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I guess I could show you around the car a little bit.
Yeah, what do we got?
So this is the Turbo S variant of the Taycan. It comes in a few different trim levels. The Turbo S has about 750 horsepower with its performance boost or e-boost mode. This particular car is actually outfitted with Champion Motorsport R74 custom forged wheels, which is a world's first also. So you won't see a Taycan anywhere with aftermarket wheels yet. We're the first ones to do that. It also is outfitted, because the Turbo S, outfitted with the carbon ceramic brakes and all the other cool accoutrements. So it has a Burmeister sound system, the acoustic glass. We're doing 0 to 60 in about 2.6 seconds is what Porsche is stating. I think real world we're getting about 2.7 to 2.8 on the Turbo S. And we're running 10s in the quarter mile on this car, which is pretty impressive. One great thing about this car is the fact that it's getting the performance at any charge level, which is different than it is with the Tesla models. So you could be at 50%, you could be at 80%, you put launch control and it's a rocket ship, it's out of here.
All right, let's go take it out. Drive.
I was born for this, I was born for this. I was born for this, I was born for this. Born for this. Born for this. Even lightning strikes, dangerous like dynamite. Born for this.
That's insane. All right, guys, so we just finished our shoot with the 1DX Mark III, and I'm working on the full review now. We actually have a couple more shoots coming up with this camera. Let me know if you like this kind of BTS style thing and you want to go along with us on these photo sessions, and we'll bring you along and do some BTS work of it. So hit me up with a like. Make sure you're subscribed for the full review and let me know your thoughts on it, as well as what you guys want to know about this camera. I'll make sure to throw it in that review. And also, I mean, what did you think of the Porsche, right? I mean, that's amazing right there. But this camera is kind of tried and true 1DX, not a whole lot different when it comes to the ergonomics and style. You can feel that it's a little bit lighter when you pick it up with the body only, but by the time you throw some lenses on there, it essentially is about the same. Now, I am digging this new AF on style button right here that you can just swipe on and move your focus points around. It's not quite as accurate as a joystick, but it's so fast and there's so many points in this camera that I find myself using it quite a bit. All right, so we do now have RAW support in Lightroom, and I was able to take a look at these files, and I'd have to say that things look kind of unsurprising here. So dynamic range has definitely improved for Canon over the last couple of years, and we're seeing it here. However, I don't think we're setting any records here. If you start boosting those shadows, they just don't look black anymore. They kind of look this kind of muddy gray and tan color, and that's what we've seen on some other cameras. The good news is there's no banding or color artifacting or any of the things that we used to see. The bad news is it's a little bit grainy, and they just don't have that crisp black anymore. So while it is one of the best Canon sensors on the market, I don't think that we're going to set any records here. Now in low light, I do think we are seeing a pretty big difference here. So we do have some grain even at lower ISOs like 800 ISO. It still is there. But when you start bumping this up a little bit higher, first of all, the grain pattern looks really good. And then even at up to 25,000 ISO, I'm finding the colors just maintain very well. And even applying a little bit of noise reduction to that 25,000 ISO image really just makes it look identical to a 6400 ISO image, which is really impressive there. Also, I threw it up against the Sony a7S II, which is really the low light king of cameras right now. And honestly, these cameras look almost identical despite the Canon having a lot more megapixels than the Sony. Now, I do want to touch on autofocus a little bit, and I didn't do a whole lot of testing so far. However, I did shoot a brand campaign for a in-ear monitor company, and these are so difficult to actually focus on, and the 1DX handled it better than anything else I had with me. Also, in mirrorless mode, it was really hard to get kind of that pinpoint AF on this kind of a small subject, especially because it wasn't really contrasty. But with a live view, or not with a live view, but with the viewfinder in the normal DSLR focusing mode, it got it no problem. So that density increase that we're seeing in the autofocus system is definitely playing out. So I do think a lot of people are going to appreciate what that has to offer. So we all know this is a video powerhouse, and I got to test that a lot on this shoot. And I will say that it looked amazing. The video quality on this camera is stunning, with the exception of 120 frames per second, which looks like a muddy mess for whatever reason. The difference between shooting 60 frames per second and all the way at 4K and 120 frames per second that looks like really crappy 1080p or less is a huge difference there. So just keep that in mind if you're a high frame rate shooter on that and want more than 60 frames per second. And then also 60 frames per second, as many of you know, you're not going to have autofocus in that unless you go into the crop mode. And I pretty much shot everything 4K 60, so that was kind of a disappointment that if I wanted autofocus, and I did because this is an amazing autofocus camera, I had to bump that into the crop mode on that one. Also, if you do want that 5.5K, the high resolution for cropping or doing anything like that, do keep in mind that that is going to be RAW only. So while this camera has so many options and so many different frame rates and all this kind of stuff, DCI, I did find that depending on what you want to shoot, almost all of them came with some kind of a limitation that you just need to keep in mind. Now, selecting one of those frame rate options is an absolute nightmare. Canon just basically threw all of these different frame rates and DCI and crop modes into this one menu option. It's this giant grid of tons of different options on there, but absolutely no organization to this that makes sense. If you want to go from a crop mode to a none crop, plan on spending a while looking at size 2 font to be able to select the right one. It's very easy to pick the wrong one. Changing frame rates, doing all of that kind of stuff is an absolute nightmare. So I wish there was way better organization on this thing. And then also I did find that I was shooting in a extremely white space with a black car, which meant I really could have used some zebras, and that is not prevalent on this camera. So for whatever reason, Canon has left that out. That's kind of the major video feature that's actually gone from this camera. So just keep that in mind. It would have helped me out a ton to have that in this case. So I ended up kind of underexposing a little bit and then had to punch up quite a bit in post. So obviously this camera is a beast, and I absolutely love shooting with it. The battery life just lasts forever on this thing. You can go days on it, and the shooting experience, the ergonomics, everything about this camera is just so amazing. However, if you've used some other cameras on the market, there are a couple of things that come away as lacking quite a bit. Now, Nikon did just announce their D6, and I think this camera pretty much blows away the D6 in virtually every area. However, that autofocus system that is in this, it does really cluster those points into the center of it. And if you use something like a Sony A9 and gotten used to your points spread out across the frame, that can be really limiting, and you can throw this in the live view, which is great. However, using a camera this heavy, holding it out here to use live view is not the most comfortable experience. You obviously don't want to do that for very long. So I did find myself wanting more coverage when using the viewfinder. Also, 20 megapixels just really seems a little low for 2020. I know they wanted to keep that buffer insanely fast on that one, but there were just a lot of times that I wished I had more resolution. If you shot with a lot of other cameras, you don't realize how little you can zoom into this image before it starts to really fall apart on you. I really hoped that they could have maybe gone a little bit higher on that one. And then also on the video specs, there is so much here to love, but just the lack of great organization, and then some limitations here and there, like no autofocus in 60p with full frame, and kind of a weird arrangement for 24p right now. So it's something that you don't have to deal with on, say, a Panasonic S1H that seems a little better fitted for that. And then maybe we should do like a video shootout between these cameras. I think that would be fun. So let me know what you guys think on this one, how you thought about this video. Again, stay tuned. We got the full review coming up, and I'm testing out a new super secret product this week. So stay tuned for that. Should be out really soon.